Top of the day, beautiful people. Let's start our conversation here. This week is about something deeper than just understanding your inner child or getting familiar with inner child healing. It's truly about reuniting with the parts of you that never stopped needing you. I'd like to welcome you all back again to the Trauma to Triumph workshop series, where we are covering topics that are related to the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. The concept of the workshop series is to give you all the foundational principles that we've built this healing method on so that you're introduced to the concepts that you will encounter once you enroll in the challenge. So today's topic of this episode is why you don't trust yourself and what it has to do with your inner child. And this is a part of the series theme, reuniting with the parts of you that never stopped needing you. Because here's the thing, until every part of you feels safe, seen, and supported, you'll always feel like something is missing, even when life looks good on the outside. Until every part of you has a place in your present and current life, you will always feel a need to seek out something because there will always be a sense of emptiness, a sense of a void, a sense of a disconnect. And that is why this method of inner child healing is so critical, because many of us know exactly what that feels like. Many of us know exactly what it is to have everything look like it's in place on the outside of your life, but internally, you cannot find a foundational place to rest and find peace within yourself. I want to start by giving you all a brief understanding of intuition and why this matters into this whole conversation. You didn't lose your intuition. You don't stop being intuitive. Intuition is a function of the spiritual consciousness or the higher consciousness that exists inside this body. You can't stop being intuitive. But what happens is our physical conscious mind stops listening to that subtle voice of intuition. So let me break this down a little bit. None of us were born second guessing ourselves. None of us were born, Joe, happy healing to you and welcome to the conversation. None of us were born second guessing ourselves. In fact, we were all born with natural intuition, a clear internal knowing that came before words. Let me expand on that for you. Babies don't have language, do they? But if you watch and pay attention to a baby, it seems like babies have some type of intuitive thing about people. What do we always say? Babies know the energy of people. Why? Because that's all they have to rely on. But also, that's what we're all born with, this natural, sharp intuition. Children, not only children, animals are also the same way. Animals sense people. They feel them. Because when you don't have language and you have not been taught how to assimilate and adjust to meet the outside recommendations of the world, you rely on your internal world. But what happens over time? We get taught how to prioritize the outside world over our internal signals. We get taught how to prioritize the things that we need to be aware of. For instance, we learn what earns us approval. We learn what's considered too emotional, too dramatic, too much. And then we start trading our inner knowing for the outside acceptance and validation. We trade our inner sense of knowing what it is that is real and what it is that we need to tap into. We trade that for whatever it is that the world is asking of us. So here's the thing for those of us that struggle with second guessing and those of us that struggle with being indecisive. It's not that you don't know what's best for you. It's that you spent so many years ignoring the signals that's coming from inside of you that now today you don't know the difference between your intuition and your own doubt. None of us were born confused. We've just been conditioned to no longer trust our internal world. We've been taught through religion, through systems, that at the point of us being brought into this world, that we need to focus and depend on everything outside of us. So what do? We lose our connection with that intuition, with that voice of clarity, with that internal truth. Let me transition and I want to show you all something. Oftentimes, when we first encounter trauma, we create this persona or this personality to help us navigate the world that we have now deemed to be unsafe. But that persona that seems like it's saving us in the moment, oftentimes it's only reinforcing the pain. And I'm going to show you how. The version of you showing up today, the achiever, the overthinker, the caregiver, the avoider, that version may not truly be who you are. That version may be the persona that you created to protect yourself from pain. Here's the twist, though. The very persona that was built to protect the wound is now reinforcing the belief or the limiting belief that was created from the wound in the first place. The very persona that we created to protect ourselves is now reinforcing the belief that the wound created in the first place. Let me give you an example of this. So the overthinker. Oftentimes, if you're the person that actually lives as the overthinker, you don't consider this a problem for yourself. You actually look at your overthinking and you see all the advantages of you doing this. Why? Because in your overthinking, you're actually protecting yourself from something. So let's break that down. Let's say overworker. Let's start with the overworker first, right? In your overworking, the adult self is overworking to prove their value. The adult is overworking because the adult believes this is how I establish my worth. But what does this overworking reinforce to the inner child? I'm not enough unless I'm producing or being useful. Let me slow this down and walk us through it. So the persona of the overworker is oftentimes developed out of a child who felt like they had to earn validation. They had to earn love. They had to earn nurturing. So overworking to get that validation became their norm. So this persona of the overworker is trying to protect a child that feels like if I don't earn it, I'm not deserving of it. But if you never stop and recognize this pattern in your life, by being the overworker that is trying to prove your value, you are simply reinforcing to your inner child that I am not enough unless I'm producing or being useful. Because that wound, the original wound, was feeling invisible or unworthy without achievement. Now, some of you are thinking, I'm an overworker and this has served my life in a good way, coach. So I don't know if that's something that I want to reconsider. But let me offer you this. When you are operating in the place of the overworker, the person that is constantly seeking achievements as a form of validation, constantly seeking accomplishments as a form of proving your worth, even your success doesn't make you feel secure because it's all built on fear. That if I am not doing these things, I don't feel important, I don't feel validated. And because it's rooted in that, you will never be able to heal or quiet that wound through your achievements and your accomplishments. Let's talk about those of us that struggle with people pleasing. Ah, Lola, you're right on time. Lola says, I strode here right on time. Overthinking is what I'm trying to stop. I tell you all every single day, we are all energetically drawn here by the collective consciousness that we share. So, welcome, Lola. Let's keep working. Let me give you all this second example about the people pleaser. When you're operating as a people pleaser, what is the adult self doing? The adult is saying yes to avoid rejection. The adult is saying yes and going out of his or her way to please people because this is someone who's learned my needs don't matter unless I am actually being there or being validated by meeting someone else's needs. But what does this behavior of saying yes to avoid rejection, saying yes even when you're not available, saying yes even when you don't have the capacity, what does that reinforce to your inner child? I have to earn love by keeping people happy. So the people pleaser persona that was developed to protect that wound is now reinforcing the wound. Because the environment that this people pleaser was needed in to survive is no longer your reality. Favored by God, happy healing to you, and welcome to the conversation. Good to see you back. What was the wound that the people pleaser is operating from? Oftentimes being punished or dismissed, or being punished or dismissed for simply expressing your needs. Being ignored whenever you express your needs, but then receiving validation or receiving attention whenever you met the needs of your caregivers or whenever you met the needs of other people. So what did you learn? My needs don't matter. I have to earn love. I have to earn acceptance by keeping everybody else happy. But how does this backfire on you? You end up feeling resentful. Even while you're making everybody else happy because that makes you feel important. You need to be needed because that's how you feel validated. But what happens? You end up feeling resentful because the same people who you are pleasing do not seem to give you back what you need because they cannot. Your need is not the validation because you're doing something for them. Your need is something that's rooted in a wound that you have not yet healed. You end up feeling resentful, you end up feeling drained, and you still feel unloved because your true self was never seen or involved or a part of that process. Here's one that I love because I've been this person before. Where are all my conflict avoiders? Those of us that go out of our way to avoid conflict, we will concede in circumstances and situations where we know we are right, but if it helps us to avoid the conflict, we'll tell you you're right. We'll concede, we'll give it up, whatever. Why? Because in our adult minds, the person that's avoiding conflict is going silent or withdrawing because this is how they feel they can avoid tension. They can avoid conflict because at some point in your life, being yelled at, ignored, you got yelled at, ignored, or punished just for speaking up. At some point in your life, having an opinion meant you were being disrespectful. There's nothing more entertaining than observing people observe me and my daughter in public. We've raised my daughter to be a very verbally expressive young girl. Obviously, I'm a communicator, so you know she's a communicator, right? I'm an in-depth thinker, so you know she's an in-depth thinker. So there are times that my daughter and I will have a very in-depth conversation, and oftentimes this may happen in public. And people will be shocked, like, you let her talk that way? Yeah, she has an opinion. Her voice matters. She can challenge. If I suggest something, she has the right to express her opinion about it. Why, coach? Why would you let a little girl disrespect you? You're supposed to raise up a child in the way that they should go so that when they grow old, they'll never stray away from it. The problem with that is many of you are only raising children. And then you wonder why when your children get older, they are still acting like children. Because in your mind, for some of us, it's still our trauma. In our minds, we don't recognize that what you are teaching this little person, they're going to take and utilize when they become a big person. So rather than me focused on, you're a child, you don't disrespect me, I'd rather focus on empowering this little girl to understand that her voice matters now. You see, because when you're the conflict avoider, and you're often going silent and withdrawing whenever there's tension, what you're reinforcing to your inner child is my voice causes harm to me. My voice makes it so that I am not safe. Whenever I express myself, I get punished, beaten, or ridiculed. So now, as an adult, when you avoid conflict, you are only reinforcing to that inner child that your voice doesn't matter. Shut up, sit down, be quiet. The personas and personalities and masks that we created, that we've worn to protect ourselves at a certain point in our lives is not only not serving us today, but it is reinforcing the very limiting belief that we are trying to break free from. You see, because when you feel like your voice doesn't have a place, you never feel heard. And how this looks in your adult life for many of us, your relationships remain surface leveled because you don't have the comfort to speak and deal with people in depth. Your relationships remain strained because you never learned, watch this, you never learned the comfort of expressing yourself. So oftentimes, whenever there's conflict in your relationship, it's not that you don't have something to say. It's not that you're not offended. It's not that you're not hurt. You just don't feel comfortable saying it. So you often live in the quietness of your hurt and of your pain, which eventually deteriorates the relationship anyway. Many of us thought we were protecting our pain. But now that we're no longer in the environment that requires that protection, we are simply repeating the pain. We're simply reinforcing the limiting beliefs. And we're keeping ourselves in that cycle. Let's start getting to the meat and potatoes of this. You don't, excuse me, excuse me. You don't trust yourself because you don't know which you is talking. Kimberly, happy healing to you and welcome back to the conversation. You don't trust yourself because you don't know which you is talking. This is the key to integration and being whole. When you're integrated, every part of you is at the table. So when you get a suggestion or a thought or an idea or a feeling, because every part of you is welcome and at the table, you can assess where that thought or that feeling is coming from. So you know what part of you is talking, so you know how to address or deal with the feeling or the thought that you are experiencing. But when you don't know which you is talking, it's hard for you to trust your decision. It's hard for you to recognize, is this my intuition or is this my inner child trying to avoid hurt? Is this my intuition telling me to move forward with this person? Or is this my neediness telling me I need this person? This is often the real reason why we're stuck, because when we're not integrated, we don't know which part of us is making the decision. Is it the adult you who sees the big picture? Is it the wounded child trying to avoid another rejection? Or is it the protector persona trying to keep you safe by staying small or by being overly aggressive in the situation? Your conscious mind wants clarity, but when you're disconnected from your inner world, you don't trust the internal signals because you don't know who's sending the signals. You see, because I am aware of the wound that I carried from my childhood of I am not enough, whenever random thoughts pop up in my mind when I'm dealing with a situation and the thought is related to a sense of doubt about my capabilities in the situation, I know which part of me is bringing that thought up because I'm integrated with all those parts of me. So when my little self, my inner child, starts to produce a little bit of doubt about a circumstance that I'm facing, I go, it's okay. We got this. All things are working together for our good, and we've already done the work. We've already did everything that we were supposed to do, and this thing is going to work out for us because I know who's talking. I know what part of me is producing the thought. I know what part of me is producing the emotion because I've gone through the process of doing the trauma to triumph healing method, and I understand the parts of me because I've integrated with those parts of me. That's what it means to be whole. It's not to be that I don't feel any pain or all my trauma has gone away. Being whole is that every part of me is integrated and sitting at the table of my decision making. So when I have a thought or an emotion, I can assess it accurately, knowing where the thought is coming from. So let me show you this place that many of us are stuck in of being indecisive or second guessing ourselves or never being able to trust ourselves. So watch. Your conscious mind is seeking clarity, but because you're disconnected from your internal world, right? Every time, let me explain this to you. Let me slow down so I can give you both perspectives because there's two angles that I want to show you, and when they both make sense, you'll see the point here. All right. So the conscious mind wants clarity. Your conscious mind is trying to understand what's happening within you. But you've been disconnected from your internal world because you've been seeking outside validation, outside approval, everyone else's opinion, and you've been consumed with that. So you don't trust the internal signals because you don't know who's sending them. So in your conscious mind, when you need to make a decision or when something's happening in your life, you're in this state of being indecisive because you can't trust the signals that's coming from within you because you've been so disconnected from yourself, focused on everything outside of you. That's the one angle. Now let me show you the flip side. The flip side is this. Your inner world or your inner child don't trust you, the conscious mind. Because every time your inner child tries to get your attention through thought, through emotion, or through signals through your body, you run. You scroll, or you try to numb the pain, or you try to numb the information, or you overthink it, or you try to avoid it. So your inner child or your inner world doesn't trust your conscious mind, and your conscious mind doesn't trust your inner world. This is why you're in a constant state of indecisiveness. This is why you're in a constant state of, I don't trust myself. I don't trust the decisions that I'm making. I don't trust my internal voice. It's because your conscious mind don't trust your internal voice because you don't know where the voice is coming from. Right? Your inner child doesn't trust your conscious mind because your conscious mind never listens, pays attention, and you're not in tune to your inner voice. So you're just in a state of a fractured being. Not sure if I'm making the right decision or the wrong decision. Not sure if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Constantly living in a constant state of anxiety. Afraid of the potential outcomes of my decision making because I don't know if I'm making the right decision. And so what happens though? What happens when you ignore that internal voice? What happens when you ignore the subtle nudging of your thoughts, the subtle nudging of your emotions? What happens when you don't recognize your emotions as information and you keep running from that thought or that feeling that you don't want? You keep running or you keep hiding from it. What happens? The internal dialogue only gets louder, it gets more chaotic, and it gets more painful. I often tell my clients, we all accept this concept that when I, as a student, when I am ready, the teacher will appear. But sometimes we don't know that we run from the teacher every time the teacher appears. Sometimes the teacher in your life is the pain of the circumstances that you just came out of. If you don't sit with that pain and try to learn what is this pain and circumstance and situation trying to teach me, you miss the lesson. And what happens whenever you are in a class and you miss all of the lessons and end up failing the test? You are going to repeat the cycle again. That internal voice, your intuition, it does not go away because you want to numb yourself from the pain. You want to numb yourself from the accountability. In order to be the leader, and I won't even say the leader because many of you are not going to grasp that concept. In order to actually get the steering wheel of your life, you have to show that you are responsible enough to drive all of the parts of you that are inside this vehicle. In order to have control and have some sense of leadership of your life, you have to show accountability. In order for you to be trusted by all the parts of you that are inside your vehicle. If you want to drive and have control of your life, the passengers have to trust you. Why? If we all accept that there are different versions of us inside of this vessel based on the different experiences that we've had, and let's play with the analogy that all those versions of us are passengers inside of this vehicle. And if all of those versions of us have never connected with us and don't trust us as the driver of the vehicle, I want to play with this analogy because I want y'all to see the visual. Imagine you are trying to control a vehicle with all the passengers in the vehicle don't trust you. You are likely to crash or find yourself in a constant state of chaos while you're on the highway. Because when the passengers in the vehicle don't trust you, they're constantly trying to grab the steering wheel while you're trying to steer the vehicle. That's why some of our lives seem so chaotic. Because we are supposed to be the ones in charge, but we don't have any trust from all the parts of us that are along for the ride. So there's constant conflict and fighting in the car. That's why some of us experience anxiety, stress, mental health issues, because there's a constant fighting inside the car. Because all of the passengers in the car don't trust the driver. And if I tell you all a little secret, oftentimes the car has been in fully autonomous mode for most of your life because you don't realize that you are the driver. Your car has been operating based on information that was pre-downloaded on the hard drive from the manufacturer. Those would be your parents. Your car has been operating on fully autonomous mode based on information that it observed from the manufacturing plant. That'll be your childhood. All right, coach, I get it. How do I start rebuilding that trust with myself? How do I start mending that relationship between my conscious awareness, the me that is aware of my dreams, my desires, my wants, my needs, my ambition? How do I mend that relationship between my conscious mind and my subconscious mind? How do I mend that relationship between my conscious mind and my inner child or any other version of me that has been developed? Here's the secret. You do not rebuild by doing more. Pay attention. You rebuild in the same way you would with someone you've hurt. You listen, you show up, and you prove that you won't run when it gets uncomfortable. In order to mend that relationship between your conscious mind and your internal world or your inner child, you have to listen. So let me give you all some clear steps. First, listen to your emotions as information and not directions. Listen to your emotions as information and not distractions. Listen to your emotions as information and not your enemy. Your emotions are designed to direct you to the parts of you that need love, attention, and nurturing. But every time you feel an emotion that you don't want and you run from it, every time you feel an emotion that you don't want, so you run to alcohol, drugs, or something to try to numb it, every time you feel an emotion that you don't want and you rebuke it or you try to get it off your, whatever it is, you are not learning and you're not listening. You have been conditioned to believe that your internal world is your enemy. So you don't listen to your internal world. You're trying to run from your internal world instead of sitting, settling, and paying attention. So this is how you start. Listen to your emotions as information and not directions or distractions or your enemy. They're messages. The second thing, and I know we live in a world where every healing school has taught us that your thoughts don't belong to you. Ignore them, push them away, and get rid of them. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Pay attention to your thoughts, even the messy ones, because they reveal where your younger self is still speaking up. You know those thoughts that come out of nowhere, random? Ask yourself, what are you trying to teach me and what are you trying to show me? Pay attention to your thoughts because your thoughts are often a reflection of what is happening in your subconscious mind. And if you want to learn and make peace with that part of yourself, you have to pay attention. Isn't that what you would do with someone that you're trying to build a relationship with? Wouldn't you start paying attention? Wouldn't you start noticing the small things that happens with this person? Wouldn't you start taking notes of the things that they do, how they respond to certain things, what they like, what they don't like, what circumstances and situations that they thrive in, what circumstances and situations do they suffer or struggle in? That's how you build relationships. Why wouldn't you utilize the same method to rebuild that relationship with your inner world? And then lastly, sit with your pain. I promise you, 90% of the time when we keep repeating things in our life is because we ran from the pain the last time we went through it. 90% of the time, if you keep repeating the same patterns in your life, it is likely because you never sat with the pain when you went through it the first 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 times. Every time you went through it, when you felt the pain, you ran from the pain. You found a way to numb it. You found a new relationship to fix it. You found something to push the pain away, so you never learned. Sheila at Think Different says, you mean every time. It is like that. For some of us, it is every time. And I'm telling you to sit with it, not suffer in it. There's a difference, because when you're sitting with it, you hear what it's trying to teach you. When you're sitting in it, you're overwhelmed by the pain. What are you trying to teach me, and what do I need to learn? Not woe is me, why did it happen to me? Oh my God, I can't believe they did this to me. Why did they? That's you sitting in it. That's you reveling in it. That's you bathing in it. When you sit with it, teach me something. What is it about my behavior, my patterns? What am I doing that keeps putting me in this situation? I don't want to run from this pain. I don't want to numb this pain. I don't want to find something or someone, or I don't want to do, I want to learn. Because when you stop abandoning your inner world stops fighting to get your attention. When you stop ignoring your emotions and your thoughts, they stop screaming. My daughter does this thing. I promise you, this little girl has been crafted specifically to teach me how to live so that I can teach her how to live. My daughter does this thing to where she'll say something to me. I'll acknowledge what she said. And in my brain, I've acknowledged it. Cool. She'll keep repeating it and getting louder. And then I'll realize that her voice is getting louder. And I'll be like, Zori, why are you yelling? And she'll remind me, because you haven't responded, Dad. And I'll be like, oh, my bad, sweetie. Yes. I clocked it in my mind. I just didn't verbalize my response to you. But in the midst of that, she's teaching me, sir, if I'm speaking to you and you don't respond, I'm going to do what I need to do to get your attention. That's your inner world. That's your inner child. Oftentimes, the thing that ends up being this big trigger or this big response, it didn't start that way. It starts as a subtle nudge. A soft internal leading, a soft internal revelation, a soft internal voice that, because you've been so disconnected from your intuition, from yourself, you don't hear that soft internal nudging and leading and voice. So what does the inner world do? What does the different parts of you start to do to get your attention? I'm going to get loud. I'm going to get chaotic. I'm going to spaz out. And that's when we go, oh, let me pay attention to what's going on in my life. Oh my God, I need to do something because I can't believe that I cursed out my boss and now I'm jobless. I can't believe that I almost unalived that person over something so small. I can't believe that I overreacted or that I acted that way over such a small situation. Oh, I need to do something different in my life. Kira, happy healing to you and welcome to the conversation. When you stop abandoning your inner world stops fighting to get your attention. When you stop abandoning and you stop ignoring the voice that is coming from within you, that voice stops yelling to get your attention. Because once you let all the parts of you at the table, they don't need to be throwing a riot outside. When every part of you is at the table, there is no need for a traumatic trigger response. Because guess what? The part of you that used to jump out, ignore your consciousness, and just direct your body to act as a means of protecting you, that part of you is now integrated with you. So that part of you responds, and there is a pause, an assessment of the situation, some type of internal dialogue. Remember what I said? When you know which part of you is speaking, you can make clearer decisions. When you know which part of you is interacting or producing the emotion, you're able to pause, assess, and make a decision that serves your long-term best interest. Self-trust isn't built in your head because, oh, okay, I heard a great conversation with Coach Kohn, so now I trust myself. Self-trust is built in how you respond to your inner signals. My emotions are information and not instructions or distractions. My thoughts are messengers and not disruptors. See, when you're able to accept that your inner world is a part of you and trying to help you, now you'll be able to discern between what is yours and what is a random thought that popped out of nowhere. But when you don't have any connection with your inner world, you don't know which thoughts are yours and which thoughts were just dropped onto you because of the signal that you're carrying. And this leads to that further confusion in our lives. And this is why we've put together the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. It's not just about healing your wounds, but it's about rebuilding trust with the parts of you that were left behind. In this 12-week journey, here's what we're going to teach you. We'll teach you how to identify your inner child's voice so that you know what you need to be listening to. We'll teach you how to stop reacting and start responding after you've paused and done an assessment, and your response will be that which serves your long-term best interest. We'll teach you how to rewire the limiting beliefs that have been driving your self-doubt. And we'll teach you how to rebuild an internal system that works with you and not against you. Again, you can still use promo code FIRMDECISION 2025 to save on your enrollment. This is week 5 because we repeated week number 6 last week. We repeated week number 4 last week. This is the last week that you'll be able to enroll because we are moving into week 6 next week. Don't miss out on your opportunity to be a part of this amazing challenge. This is the last week to join the April's challenge. If you miss this week's enrollment, you will have to wait until June to be a part of this amazing, life-changing opportunity. If you're interested, you can check out the link tree in my bio, or if you're catching us on YouTube or any other platform, you can check out the description of this video to go to our website, which is happyhealin.com. and follow the link for the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. Again, that is Happy Healing. That's healing without a G.com. All right, let's get back to work and close this thing out. Self-trust is based on how you respond to your internal system. The most important thing that we're going to teach you with this challenge is how to live with every part of you, because the goal is integration. Many of us don't realize most of our neediness is born out of our need to feel whole. The thing that you're chasing in relationships is your need to feel whole. The thing that you're chasing in external validation and accomplishments is your need to feel whole. The thing that you're chasing in your connection with people is your need to feel whole. But that need to feel whole cannot be accomplished by adding anything externally. The need to feel whole can only be accomplished by accepting, embracing every part of you. That's what being whole is. You can't have a beautiful relationship until there's a beautiful relationship inside of you. And yes, sometimes we can meet an amazing person that can help us to cultivate that relationship inside of ourselves. But that means they're doing extra lifting and extra work. And if that's not somebody's life calling, that's not what people are willing to do. What we're teaching people inside of this challenge is how to live with all of you. Not just the strong parts, not just the productive parts, but the parts of you that was never given a voice or was never given a chance. This challenge is not about trying harder. It's about leading better. It's about learning the skills and the tools that we were never taught. It's about learning skills and tools that you will be able to utilize in coaching yourself through those tough moments in your life. That's the difference in what we're doing with this challenge. I'm not bringing you here for me to walk you through a process that leads you to a temporary result or leads you to just a result in one area of your life. We're teaching you this trauma to triumph healing method. We're giving you this skill set that you will have for the rest of your life. Because the moment you stop silencing the voice within, you'll realize that's the voice that's always known the way. The part of us that we've been convinced to live without is the part that we are seeking out in the world. Listen to me. The part of you that you've left behind, that you have not connected with on the inside of you, is the very same part of you that you are seeking out in the world. You think you'll find it in a relationship. If I just find the right person, I'll feel whole. If I just find the right circumstance and situation in my life, I'll feel whole. If I just achieve the right amount of things, if I just accomplish the right amount of things, I will feel whole. But let me help you understand what it means to be whole. If you just accept the parts of you that life convinced you to reject, you'll be whole. If you just accept the part of you that you've been ashamed of, you'll be whole. If you accept every part of you as being worthy enough to sit at your table, then your table will be complete. For those of you that are joining us on YouTube or any other platform where you're not watching this content live, we do this challenge 4 times a year. So no matter when you're hearing this message, there is a challenge that is actively going on right now, or there is a challenge that is about to start. Simply go to our website at happyhealing, happyhealin.com, and follow the link for the Trauma to Triumph Healing Challenge. I greatly appreciate you all being a part of this very meaningful conversation. We will continue tomorrow with episode number 3 in this series. And tomorrow, we are going to be talking about you keep abandoning yourself because it's familiar. So, Join us in tomorrow's conversation. We will start between 9 and 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I thank you all for being a part of this conversation. I love you all. Please do like and subscribe to the page, as well as turn on your notification bell so that you're notified whenever we release new content. And as always, happy healing.